Hello guys, welcome back. In this video, let us see and learn one more important service. Before moving to that, let us move on with need. Let's say I have a gaming application where this gaming application will generate some data. That is, whenever a user log in or whenever a user started my game by using this gaming application, I need some compute service. I need some compute service here in order to store that particular user related generated data. So this particular user related generated data inside my S3 bucket, and it also I also need some compute service in order to store what is the level that this user is completed. So let's say in my gaming application, I have two levels, that is level 1 and level 2. So for those two levels, in order to store the data, I have created two tables in my DynamoDB. Now what I'm expecting is I need a compute service, that too serverless compute service. I need a serverless compute service in between here. I need a serverless compute service here where it can able to take the request from my application, and it need to create or generate some random file and store that data inside my S3 bucket related to my user, and it also updates the data. It also need to update the table data of my user. So whenever a user completed level 1, then this serverless compute service need to update the particular data in level 1 table, and it also need to update the level 2 data when this user completes level 2 game in my gaming application. So that's what I want to do. So in order to perform this, do I have any serverless compute service directly available in AWS? So whenever you have a question, whenever a question rises in your mind like compute service, that too serverless, then you will get an answer, that is Lambda. Yes, whatever you think that is correct, but that is partially correct. This Lambda service is used to execute your compute, but the only limitation that comes into your mind, the only limitation that comes whenever you are using this Lambda in real time is this Lambda can run your code per a single execution. For a single execution in your Lambda function, it will provide you compute up to 15 minutes only. So this is one of the limitation whenever you're using Lambda in real time for using in compute service for your applications. So in this scenario, let's say you require more compute time than this Lambda will run. So execution, per single time code execution, per single time Lambda function execution, this Lambda will provide you compute for 15 minutes only. It will run for 15 minutes for single execution. Now let's say you want more than 15 minutes, you want to run Lambda function more than 15 minutes. Then by using a single Lambda function, is it possible to me, sir? No, it is not possible to run more than 15 minutes by using a single Lambda function. Then what's the alternative for you? You need to create multiple Lambda functions, right? Yes. You need to create multiple Lambda functions and you need to manage them. You need to manage them. Let's say I've created multiple Lambda functions like this. I've created three Lambda functions. So one Lambda function is to generate the report whenever my user log in or whenever my user started my game. Then one Lambda function I'd like to use to generate the report and store that report inside my S3 bucket. So for that, I'd like to use one Lambda function to generate a report, and to store the data in S3, I'd like to use one Lambda function. And one Lambda function I'd like to use to check whether this particular user completed this level 1 or not. So whenever he completed, I'd like to store that data. I'd like to generate that data and store that data inside this level 1 table of my DynamoDB. So for that, I would like to use another Lambda function. And at last, I would like to use the third Lambda function for another task. That is, if the user completed latest level or last level, that is a second level, then I would like to update that data inside my table too. So for that, I'd like to use another Lambda function. Now, instead of triggering this Lambda function, this Lambda function, this Lambda function individually, now I am expecting for a service. I'm expecting for a common service to manage all these serverless compute services. Like to manage all these Lambda functions, I need one service. So based on current step, whenever a user login, so during that step, I need to generate my report. That means I need to execute this Lambda function, and based on user login to which level, so that particular compute related Lambda function need to process. If we log into level 1 and if we finish that, then that particular Lambda function need to run, or else if he log into level 2 and run that day and completed that level 2 in my application, then I need to run this particular related Lambda function. Now I want to control like that. I want to execute these Lambda functions based on my requirement, either in sequential order or in parallel order. So that's I want to do. So for this, how to do this? To do this, do I have any service in AWS? The answer for this is yes. We have a service to do this, to manage these Lambda functions. So you can able to manage these Lambda functions and execute your task step by step by using this AWS Step Function. By using this AWS Step Function, you can able to manage all these things. Now, in this video, I'll tell you how to do that. Now, in this lab, we're gonna see how to do this controlling of our Lambda functions, that is compute services, serverless compute services, that is Lambda function, by using this step function. So for that, we will do this by simply creating a visual flow chart inside our step function, visual flow inside our step function. In order to do all these things, we just need to start this step function. So whenever your application is started by using your user, then it will take care of generating the data and putting the data inside your S3 bucket. After that, so based on your user completed level, either it may execute this Lambda function or this Lambda function and stores that particular data inside your DynamoDB tables. So that's what we're gonna see in this video. So for that, previously only I have created my DynamoDB tables and my S3 buckets. So now I'm just moving on to my lab. Now I just log into my AWS management console. Now I'm expecting to open my S3 bucket. So I'm just opening from here, or else you can open from by searching S3. You can open your S3 buckets. Now I'm just clicking on S3 to show you the bucket that I have created. You can see I have a bucket where in this bucket, you can see I do not have any objects uploaded. So after executing, you will get some generated files that are stored in this bucket only. And I'll also show you the DynamoDB tables. In this DynamoDB, I created two tables in order to store my results related to level 1 and level 2. So it's loading. Yeah. So under this, you have an option that is a tables. Just click on tables option. Here you can see, so completed level is one level, completed game is one level. So I assumed this completed level as level 1 and completed game as level 2. And now I'm just opening and showing you whether do I have any data in this. So to show you, I'm just clicking on explore table items. So here you can see you do not have any items under your completed level. Now I'm just clicking on completed game. So here also you do not have any items. After once you started your game, your Lambda functions will execute and those will need to update your data here that you can verify at last. Now I'm just expecting to create Lambda functions. So in order to do that, I'm opening my Lambda service. You can see I'm just opening this Lambda service. Now, what I want to do, I want to create 3 Lambda functions. One for generating our report and 2 for storing our results. So for that, you have an option to create your Lambda function directly from here, or else you also have an option to create your Lambda function from here. I'm just creating from here. So you can see option is visible on right top side. So just click on create function. So there you need to provide the details related to your Lambda function. So currently first I want to create Lambda function for generating report. So in order to identify that Lambda function easily, I'm just provided the name like generate report so that I can easily identify. Now I want to write Python 3 code so that I provided this. And in order to generate report and store in S3, to store in S3, first it requires permissions, right? Yes. So that I'm providing. Previously only I configured this role as well. These advanced settings provides you more flexibility to provide some more details, that is enabling this VPC so that your function Lambda function will be putted, or your Lambda function will be put under the particular private VPC that you specified, or you can enable tags in order to identify these Lambda function, or you can able to generate URLs to trigger these Lambda functions. Now I'm just moving on with the create function because those all are optional. By providing only the Lambda function name and environment also we provided. Now I'm just pasting my code. Here you can see, so after generating my report, I need to store that report, right? Yes. So this event, so whatever the event generated while user login to, or whenever a user started my gaming application, that will generate some event. So from that event, I'm getting level as well as username as well as score and marks. So at last, I'm storing whatever the completed level report and whatever the score and max marks that I am storing inside the report variable. That report variable, I'm just publishing that thing. What is that? So inside my bucket, I'm just putting my user ID as well as level that user is currently on. So those two things, user related ID and level, those two I'm putting inside my bucket, and inside my body I'm providing the report that is a completed level related details and score. So those all we are putting by using this Lambda function. So for that, we connected to S3 bucket by using this Boto3 client. Then we used this put object function in order to put our object inside our S3 bucket. We used this put object function, and we also used this S3 client that we just previously defined in order to store our object inside our S3 bucket. Here we need to provide our bucket name. Now I'm just expecting to copy my S3 bucket name to provide there. I just came back to my S3 management console and I opened the bucket. Here you can see objects are 0. Now I'm providing this here. So we provided successfully this bucket name. Now I'm just expecting to save this code inside this Lambda function. That is a generate report Lambda function. So I'm just deploying this. So whenever it is deployed, it will be updated successfully. It will be saved successfully in our Lambda function. So we just created a generate report Lambda function. Now we need to create 2 more Lambda functions, right? Yes. So for level 1 and level 2, I need to create 2 Lambda functions. So I'm just providing the Lambda function for level 1 as level 1. And I want to provide the name as, I want to provide the runtime environment as Python 3.11. And I want to provide the role. Then at last, I want to create the function. So I'm just clicking on create function. So that my level 1 function was created. Now here I need to update the code for this level 1 function as. In this, what I'm expecting to do is, I'm expecting to see whether my user completed level 1 or not. So whenever a user completed level 1, I'm just expecting to upload that data, update that data in my DynamoDB table. So for that, I'm written some code. You can see that. So in order to get DynamoDB related table, I'm just using Boto 3 library. So by using that client function, I'm just connecting to my DynamoDB. And to connect to my table, here you can see what I'm using. So I'm using this DynamoDB client dot update item. So by using this command, we can able to update the items which are present in our DynamoDB table. So by using what parameter? Update parameters. We defined that update parameter here, where in this update param we provided the table name. So this table name I have defined here, that is completed level. So level 1 completed, you can assume like that. And then we provided some key values, that is user ID I have provided, and some attribute updates also I have provided. So whatever the level he completed, that we are putting, and whatever the at what timestamp he completed, that also we are putting. Those 2 things that we doing. So now in this, what happens is, it just creates some client for our DynamoDB table, and by using this update item command, it will update the current items. So based on our provided update parameters. In this, we provided the table name, in which table we are updating, and for particular user ID, we provided the user ID, that is based on event that we are getting user ID, and level also we are getting from the event. Then at last, we're updating user ID there, and we're updating the level, and at what timestamp we are updating, that also we are putting by using this action put, by using action type as put. So this is the Lambda function for implementing that. Now I'm just saving this code by deploy option. You can see update saved successfully. So now level 1 Lambda function also created. Now what I'm expecting is, I'm expecting to create one more Lambda function to update the latest information, that is the last, if he completed the last level or not. So that's, I'm assuming like level 2. And now I want to write my code to update the DynamoDB table by using a Python 3. So that's why I selected Python 3 to provide permissions to edit the tables inside my DynamoDB. I'm just using some existing role that I have previously created. Now I'm just creating this function. Now I'll update the code you can see this was creating, yeah, successfully created. Now what I'm expecting is I want to update the code here. This code is same like previous code where we provided the table name as complete game. In this table, since we are updating in this complete game table, so we changed the table name, and so that's what only we changed. That's it. The code will be same. We are updating the same thing. Since whenever the game is completed or level 2 is completed, I am storing that data inside this completed game for this user ID, and based on this total score, you can see we provided that in which timestamp also we provided, and we provided the score also. We provided user ID completed or not. So we provided that value as true by using bool variable, and we putting that data inside our DynamoDB table by using this put item. By using this put item, we are putting that data. So previously updated, now we are putting that data. Now I'm just clicking on deploy so that our changes will be updated. You can see successfully updated our level 2. So we successfully created 3 Lambda functions, one for generating report and one for level 1 and one for level 2. So now at last what we need to do, we need to manage these all Lambda functions, right? Yes. So how do we manage? By using this AWS Step Function, we can manage these Lambda functions, right? Yes. So now we are creating this step function to manage all these Lambda functions. For that, I'm searching for service that is step functions. You can see step functions is visible to me. Now I'm just clicking on it. It was loading. Now what we are expecting to do is we are expecting to manage all our Lambda functions by using this. So for that, we need to create a state machine. Inside this, we have state machines. By using the state machines only, we can able to manage those Lambda functions. Now I'm just clicking on state machine. Currently, we do not have any state machines. Now I'm just clicking on create state machine. It is loading. Yeah. So now it was asking me to choose a template. Now what I'm doing is I'm just choosing one. So I'm choosing a blank template. Now I'm just selecting that. So now we entered into this page. Now at first, what I need to do? I need to do two things. First, I need to generate. So whenever user started the game, I need to run this. So after running this, it needs to do two things. That is, it need to generate me the report. And then it also need to identify which level it is. So those two things I need to do. So for that, so those two things I need to execute in parallel. So I'm just taking under this flow, we have multiple options. You can see this parallel is used to these all are branches. This parallel branch is used to execute all the nodes that you provided to this parallel branch in parallel. Whereas if you choose this choice, this will be like if else statement. If your statement is true, then one will be executed, or else the second will be executed. If you want to just pass, then just provide this, or else if you want to delay the response up to certain time, then you just provide this. And if you want to stop and marks as success, then you just take this and attach it there where you want in the flowchart. And this fail statement indicates if you want to stop by marking failure, then you choose this. You also have some predefined patterns. You can able to use them to process your files in S3. So those are also available for processing. You can use them whenever you require. So currently we are moving with processing the data which is present in Lambda function. So currently I'm just picking and placing here. I'm expecting to do two things. So here I want to place the Lambda function. by using this Lambda function, I want to generate that report and store that report inside my S3. So that's why I provided that particular Lambda function by selecting this. And here I selected under my function names, I selected that particular generate report Lambda function. So that's it. Now what I'm expecting to rename this so that it will be very understanding to me. Generate report. So this Lambda function is for that. Now here in parallel to this, I want to do one thing. What is that? Is I want to check whether my user is login to play level 1 or level 2 game. That I want to verify. So in order to verify that, you can use some if else statement. By default, user will be entered to level 1. So that I want to provide by using this Lambda function. So I just pick it and place it this. Now I want to choose my Lambda function as level 1. You can see I'm picking level 1. So by default, this level 1 is picked, and we need to provide the rule here. So in order to provide the rule, I just double click it here on top of your rule 1. And here I want to configure the default rule. So I'm just clicking on edit option. So here you can see we have Lambda invoke. It will invoke me the Lambda function. I need to add a choice rule to this. So I just clicked on add. No, I want to add the default rule. So I'm just closing this. And inside my rule 1, I'd like to add one condition. So that condition is whenever my level, that is $. Level is double equals to. So in order to tell equals to, I'm just clicking this. That is a string constant latest. So if my level is latest, then I need to enter to another, that is a last Lambda function. So I'm just providing that. You can say I'm getting error, that is rule 2 must be valid choice. I only expect one rule, right? Why do I need a rule 2? I have rule 1, that's it. And you can see rule 2 is visible. I'm just removing this so that it was removed. So by default, I would like to move to this Lambda function. You can see that is also automatically configured here, right? Yes. So now I'm just closing this. And before creating this, I'd like to verify this is the first one or not. You can see level 1. So in order to identify that, I want to rename this as level 1. You can see I renamed. Now I want to provide here last level, that is level 2 in this. So now I'm just picking and placing this Lambda function, and I want to use here my Lambda function, that is a level 2. So I'm just selecting that. And here also I'd like to update my name, that is a level 2, so that it will be easy to understand to me. Yeah, I provided. So this is what we are expecting. So that's what we configured. That is whenever a user login, then parallelly these two things happen. First one, it will generate my report and stores that report inside my S3 bucket. Then it also executes this, that is it will choose the choice. By default, it enters to this. If our level is latest, I'm just closing this so that it's highly visible to you. If the level is default, then it will go to the default level, that is level 1. So whenever user log in with a level that is the latest, then user will enter to this latest level. And if he completed that level also, then this Lambda function will execute and it will store the result in my DynamoDB tables. So everything we configured. Now we just need to provide the configuration details. So this is my flow, game flow, right? Yeah. So game application compute flow. So in order to understood this, I'd like to provide this name. And you can see one more thing, that is a work is not created. You just click here so that it will create. Before that, I'd like to see these things, details. Yeah, we need to provide some permission, right, in order to do all these things. So for that, I'm providing the existing permission that I've already created. This IAM role has all the permissions related to S3 packet as well as the DynamoDB. So that's why I am using this role. So whenever I'm creating my Lambda functions or whenever I'm creating this step function, yeah, that's it. Now I'm just clicking on this create so that this will be created. So before that, you also have some actions. Now I'm just clicking on create so that whatever the graph flow design that you created, that will be created. You can see a message that is state machine was successfully created. So that's what this state machine is. We are under our state machine. And in this state machine, you can able to monitor the matrices. So by using that, you can able to know multiple details related to this state machine running execution errors, how many times it was succeeded, how many times it was started, so how much time it takes to execute, those all things, and logging related details you can able to see, definition. So this is what we created, right? So this is what visually we created our flow. You can able to even create by definition. So that is basically looks like similar to the JSON format. If you are proficient in creating this by using JSON format, you can create under definitions tab. So since we are familiar or easy, I'm expecting that this will be easy process to create my flowchart for my step function for my state machine. So that's why I moved on with this option. Now we have alias option and versioning options also there, and tags options are also there. You use this tags for automation purpose. Now I'm just expecting to start this. I'm just expecting to start this, whatever the state machine that we created. So under the state machines, we have that state machine, you can see by reloading this. Yeah. So now I'm just expecting to execute this. So I'm just clicking on start execution. So basically for test environments, you first execute and test that environment. After that, you use that environment in real time, right? Yes. Now, actually, our application will send the data to this step function in the form of a JSON script by using some API calls. This is how some random JSON script will look like. So here I am providing the necessary details like user ID and the level, and score I am providing, and max score also I am providing, time played, and total score also I provided. So for my current Lambda function, I require all these details. So that's why I provided this. So since this is execution one, I'm providing this exe1. So in order to identify it as my execution one, I provided like this. Now I'm just clicking on start execution so that my execution will be started by taking those parameters. So in this graph, you can able to identify what steps are executed. So first it will start, then it will reach to this generate report. Your report will be generated, and then your choice also generated. In parallel, these two things happen. So your choice will be moved to level 2. Why our choice moved to level 2, sir? Because we provided level as latest, right? So in our input, we provided our level as what? Latest. So that's why it was moved to this level 2. Now in this generate report, Lambda function will generate some report and stores the data inside my S3 bucket. And inside this level 2, this will generate some data and stores your data inside your DynamoDB table. Now let's verify whether it's created or not. Let's refresh this page inside our Lambda. You can see some report got generated, right? Yes. You can even see the data which is present in this report by using simple query with S3 select. I'm just removing this and running this SQL query to see all the data which is present in my file. You can see my score is there and completed level is also there in this file. Now I'm expecting to see the data which is present in my DynamoDB table. You can see completed game. I do not have any data. I'm just refreshing it. You can see one data is there. Some data is there. It contains more details like completed or not true, and which user completed based on user ID, and what timestamp, and what is the total score. So those all things even stored here. Now let's verify in my completed level, does it was stored or not. So this will store the level 1 related data. So that's why it was not stored that data. Since level 2 is completed, it will store the data inside this. Why it won't store the level 1 data? Because it was not worked level 1 data. Now let's see the event related details. So these all events were happened. These all events were happened. So first execution was successful and parallel states was running, and tasks are two tasks were done. So one task is for generating your report and one task is for level 2 completion. Then yeah, so that's it. All the things were happened. Now let's see. Now I'm expecting to run this Lambda function. Now as a user, I'm expecting to open my application and I'm expecting to complete level 1 in my gaming application. So in that case, how this works? So for that, we need to change the input and we need to re-execute this. So I'm just moving back to re-execute this and provide some another input. I'm just starting execution and I'm providing my execution report to 2. I'm providing another JSON script. Here I am providing a default as my level. Since for default level, it will execute my level 1 and store my result in another table. You can see currently our report will generate, and in the choices level 1 will be completed so that our data, this Lambda function will be worked and our data will be stored under level 1 table. You can even see our execution successful, and so parallel state succeeded and our task, that is the level 1. In the level 1, my data is stored and our report is also generated. So that's what the thing we need to check. Now I'm just moving back to my S3 bucket. So previously I have one report. Now I have one more report generated. Now let's verify whether it was stored my result in this complete level or not by reloading this. You can see I have that data as well, right? Yes. So from this lab, what we have learned? We have seen how to create multiple Lambda functions, and we have also seen by using a single step function service, and inside that step function service also by creating a state machine, how to manage, you can see under definition we have that flowchart that we created. By using this flow chart, by using this flow graph, configuring the details of my flow graph, how to manage multiple Lambda functions that we have seen, right? Yes. So we can even monitor the execution matrices under this monitoring. You can see it was a loading. You can see how many times we have executed successfully. Those all will be available here, and execution duration, started time, errors. So those all you can able to see from here. Yeah. And whatever the executions that you provided, those all also visible from here. So like this, you can able to manage your step function by using state machines, and you can able to manage all your Lambda functions, not only Lambda functions. If you move back, to definition, you can even edit this. Under actions, you have multiple types of views and layouts. You can even export this to others as well. You can even edit this by using this option. You can see you have an option that is the edit option under your state machine. By clicking that, you can able to edit that. You can able to execute that by clicking on start execute button. Under actions, you have copy option also there to create one more new state machine by using current state machine. You can able to publish that to public as well. You can able to delete option also there to delete this. I'm just expecting to edit. So in this edit, I'm expecting to see what are the options I have. So not only Lambda, by using this step function, you can able to publish SNS topics as well. SNS topics as well. And you can even run your tasks which are present in your ECS. You can even start one more step function. So this is one more important point. By using step function, you can able to implement nested step functions as well. The step function inside your step function, we call that as nested step functions. You can even start jobs, ETL jobs that you created under your glue by using this step function as well. You can even start third-party APIs by using this as well. You can even do all these things. You have multiple options are there, multiple actions are there. So those all actions you can able to do by using this step function. These all related to database, and these all related to your storage. So you have multiple actions that are available under each type. So based on your requirement, you can select that type. Inside that, you can able to pick whatever the action that you want. So that you can able to implement by using this step function. So that you can able to manage your whole infrastructure in the form of a flow chart by using this step function. You can see multiple options are there. So those you can able to use as well. And you can see the code of whatever the graph flowchart that you created. For that, you can able to see the code inside this code option, and you can able to edit from here as well if you are more comfortable with this script. So from this, you have observed one more thing. You have overcome the issue of compute related to Lambda. If you run your Lambda directly, then you can able to execute one task per execution. You can able to run only 15 minutes only. But by using this step function, you can able to run multiple Lambda functions at the same time, and you can even able to overcome the issue. That is, you can able to run multiple Lambda functions, and you can able to compute. You can able to provide compute to your required applications. How much time you want, that much time you can able to provide by using this step function with Lambda functions. In this way, you can able to use your step function to create your state machines in real time and implement any actions in real time by using this step function. I hope you understood this video and you got some knowledge or knowledge recap related to hands-on related to step function. Thanks for watching. If you feel this video is contentful, then please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching again. See you back in the next video with another interesting topic. Until then, bye bye, guys.